What's going on, YouTube world? It is your boy P-Way with Inside P-Town, presented by Proving Grounds, your one-stop shop for everything Carolina Panthers. Now, if you're not a Carolina Panthers fan, that's okay for this video. There's a lot of information that you can take back to your team as well. So let's get to it. It's already been known that this draft here is a defensive draft. And what I've seen out of the combine echoes that sentiment for sure. I mean, the interior defensive linemen, the edges, the linebackers, they came and showed out, and there was a lot of talent on that field. But let's be honest. Let's go ahead and skim the fact. We want to know who were the top performers out of each position. And that's where I'm going to break down my top 3 performers at each position. And I'm not like the other media. I'm talking about what I visually saw. I don't care what they did before the combine, and I don't care what they're going to do after. I'm talking about that day, which 3 players in each position looked like they were the best players at the combine. So let's get started. For the first position group, let's talk about the defensive tackles, the interior defensive linemen. At number 3, Tonka Hemingway, South Carolina defensive tackle. Listen, he had a great combine. Had a vertical jump of 32 inches. He had a 9 foot and 4 inches broad jump. He had a cone drill of 7.36 seconds, and his 20-yard shuttle was at a blazing 4.48. For a guy of his size, being 6'3", 284 pounds, which is a little bit light as a defensive tackle. So it was expected for him to move well. But one thing is being expected, and one thing is actually doing it. And he showed up and had a great combine. Also, when I watched him during the cone drills and the shuttle drills, he looked very fluid, especially doing that figure 8 drill. He did very good in moving in and out and showing great change of direction. And that's what you want to see out of these big boys. So I have him as the number 3 performing defensive tackle in the combine. At number 2, Derek Harmon, Oregon defensive tackle. Now, this dude right here, 6'4", 313 pounds, and has a staggering 34 3/8 inch arm length measurement. He looked very good. Now, I'm going to go over some of his scores. He had a 4.95 on the 40-yard dash, and in the 10-yard split had a 1.74, which at his size is just very good. It wasn't really the physical measures that impressed me with this guy. It was his feet and his hips and movement in the drills. He did a very good of keeping his shoulders low. He moved very fluid. Everything looked put together. His change of direction looked great when he was planting his foot and rotating his hips as he was moving side to side. He just looked very natural in all of his movements. And that is something that the coaches are looking for at the draft. This is their first look at guys, especially guys of his size, and they have no pads on. So let's just see how they move. Let's get an idea. And I'm telling you, he looked very good from what I saw, and he definitely did himself a benefit by showing up at the combine. At number 1, Ty Robinson, Nebraska defensive tackle. Ty Robinson, boy, oh boy, 6'5", 288 pounds, has an arm length of 32 1/4 inches, and he has a hand size of 10 inches. Guys, the reason why I brought that up during the drills, boy, oh boy, he shows that he is violent with his hands, which is something that his tape also backed. And he showed it when he was doing the chop and pass rush drills. I mean, he was smacking the out of the dummy. I mean, it was crazy to see. I can hear the pop coming through the TV. And after all of that, physically, he went off. I'm going to say it again. He is 6'5", 288 pounds, and he ran a 4.83 40, and his 10-yard split was a 1.71. His vertical jump was a 33 and a half inches. His broad jump was 9 feet and 11 inches. His three-cone drill was 7.58 seconds, and his 20-yard shuttle was 4.5 seconds. Ty Robinson did himself a huge favor, and his stock definitely has risen. And as far as Panther Nation, I'm on the lookout for this guy now. I'm going to do some further research because I've seen a lot of this guy. I've seen him when he played at Nebraska, especially that Colorado game following the Colorado Buffs, where he absolutely was destroying that offensive line and wreaking havoc on Shador Sanders, another top 5 pick in this NFL draft. I think this guy did himself a solid and his stock has risen. And I'm interested in seeing if he actually will do some justice to the Carolina Panthers, knowing that we will definitely draft maybe 1 or 2 interior defensive linemen. Now, let's move to the edge group. This is another group that is very, very deep in this draft. There's a lot of depth and a lot of options for teams. And me being a Carolina Panther representative, we know that we need to pay attention to this group because if we don't get our guy at number 1, there's a chance we can get him at 2 and 3 with how deep this draft is. Now let's get to the top 3 performers out of the edge group at the combine. At number 3, I have Landon Jackson, the Arkansas edge. He is 6'6", 264 pounds, has a great arm length at 33 and a fourth inches, and he also has a 10-inch measurement of his hands. He ran a 4.68. He had a 10-yard split of 1.65. He had a outstanding vertical jump of 40 and a half inches. That is bananas. He had a broad jump of 10 feet and 9 inches. He physically went crazy. He looked great in his drills. I know that he went viral, I think, a couple months or a year back, the way that he was using his hands, doing a couple rip and chop moves on a dummy. And it was pretty funny to see, I'm not going to lie. But he has improved tremendously, and his tape backs that up. He did himself very well to show up and perform the way he did. And I believe that he has garnered a lot of attention, especially, being at that size. At number 2, Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M. Let's get to his physicals. 6'5", 267 pounds. He has a 34 and 1/8 inch arms and a 9 and 5/8 inches in his hands. Athletically, he went crazy. He had a 40-yard dash of 4.59 seconds. He had 1.58 seconds in his 10-yard split, a vertical jump of 40 inches, and a broad jump of 10 feet and 11 inches. This is just an absolutely great score. And this actually measures and actually he performed better than a former Texas A&M alumni, Myles Garrett. And that's who he's drawing a lot of comparisons to. Now, he didn't have the college production like Myles Garrett, but the measurables line up perfectly. Here's a stat that highlights how great his performance was and Landon Jackson's. There has been only 4 defensive linemen who have weighed over 260 pounds and have a vertical jump of 40 inches or above. Only 4. We have Mario Williams, who went on to have a solid career. We have Myles Garrett. We have Myles Garrett, who was on path to have a Hall of Fame career. And we have Landon Jackson, who I just mentioned previously at number 3, and yours truly, Shamar Stewart. So these guys are in rare air and rare territory. And although the production in college was not as great as some of the other edge rushers in this draft, it now raises eyebrows and raises the curiosity of a lot of coaches, including Panther Nation. It's already been reported that Dave Canales met with Shamar Stewart to have further discussions and get some answers. And I don't blame him. If I was there at the draft and I saw what I saw, I would want to talk to him too. So he did very, very good and performed very well. And at number 1, James Pierce Jr., Tennessee. This guy's hometown is Charlotte, North Carolina. 6'5", 240 pounds, has an arm length of 32 and 3/4 inches, and a hand size of 10 inches. He ran a staggering 4.47 for his 40-yard dash. He had a 10-yard split of 1.56 seconds, had a vertical jump of 31 inches, and a broad jump of 10 feet and 3 inches. He did great for himself. He looked way too smooth during his drills, as far as his pass rush drills, the figure eight drills. He showed that bend and that explosiveness. It just looked very, very natural to him, almost too natural. It was like, is he even trying out here? At one point, I had to ask myself, and him being 6'5" and 245, he's on the lighter side as far as a edge rusher. He actually reminds me of Brian Burns. There's a lot of similarities there, and it was backed by his performance. Great, great combine for him. And I know that the Panthers will interview him as well. And I'm now interested to see what comes about. This puts our staff in a very, very hard position. Panther Nation, we have to make a decision, and there's a lot of talent out of these guys. So determining who is the guy is going to become very difficult, especially with performances like these young men had today. Now let's move on to the linebacker group. At number 3, Nick Martin, Oklahoma State. Nick Martin measures at 5'11 and a half, 221 pounds, a arm length of 31 and 3/4 inches, and a hand size of 9 and 1/4 inches. I thought that he performed very good. He ran a great 40-yard dash in 4.53. He had a 10-yard split of 1.54 seconds. He had a vertical jump of 38 inches, a broad jump of 10 feet and 3 inches, and a bench press rep count of 26 reps. He did very good. He looked very fluid in his drills, very, very great in his movement. He showed great effort, great tenacity, and just looked like a NFL linebacker. I know that he doesn't have the ideal size at his height, and being 220 whatever pounds. But at the end of the day, he showed up today. We're talking about in Indianapolis. He showed up very well. And also, he's known for having great production in college as being a tackling machine. So great job by Nick Martin showing up and having a great performance at the combine. At number 2, I have Demetrius Knight Jr., South Carolina linebacker, 6'2", 235 pounds. He has an arm length of 32 and 5/8 inches, and he has a hand size measurement of 10 inches. I thought that he had a very good performance, especially being 6'2", 235. He ran a 4.58. He had a 1.58 10-yard split, a vertical jump of 31 and a half inches. He had a broad jump of 9 feet and 10 inches. He had a 3-cone drill time of 7.12 seconds and a 20-yard shuttle time of 4.25. And I want to express the importance of that 20-yard shuttle time because that shows that initial burst and really shows what's more likely going to happen during the play. So that speed was very, very good. And he had a bench press rep count of 22 reps. I thought he looked very well. I think with these guys, I really, really like to watch their drills and their movements and see how well they're changing directions from one place to another and, just their speed and in the way they move. He looked very, very good and very fluid, and he's someone who did himself a justice at the combine. At number 1, Jahad Campbell, Alabama. Jahad Campbell measures at 6'3", 235 pounds, arm length of 32 and a half inches, and a hand size of 10 and a half inches. He was absolutely the best linebacker that I saw yesterday at the combine. He had a 40-yard dash of 4.52, a 10-yard split of 1.53 seconds, and a broad jump of 10 feet and 7 inches. So his explosion was shown there, and he performed very well in the drills. Even during the combine, there were a lot of comparisons between him and Fred Warner. They basically mirrored in the way that they move, and Jihad actually showed just a little bit more speed, while I think Fred Warner shows just a little bit more fluidity. But at the end of the day, he had a great, great performance. So he is someone that is definitely going to be heavily scouted by, the NFL teams going forward. So there you have it. Those were my top three performers at each position. Now, as far as Panther Nation, what we have to ask ourselves, especially out of that interior defensive lineman group and that edge group and free agency, is coming up with the right formula to get this team back on track. Our cap situation is not its best. So it's going to be very important to make sure that we hit and land during the draft, especially after last year's draft, where there were some question marks, what we did with our number one pick. So I am interested to see what they're going to do, especially with all this talent at these positions in these key positions where we have holes today. I look forward to watching the combine today and doing some more due diligence and getting some more information on the next group of guys. And as always, I will be reporting back to you, my viewers. So thank you guys for viewing. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. This is your boy with Inside P Town, presented by Proving Grounds, and I'll see you next time. Peace.